In Conversation with Terry Shepard, award-winning broadcaster, narrator, and author. A deep dive into the writer's craft with the artists and support systems who create the stories we love.
Thanks, Lisa. She's an award-winning author, a dedicated book reviewer, and a cornerstone of the mystery community. Whether she's co-writing crime fiction or shining a spotlight on new and established authors, her passion for storytelling is undeniable. A 3-time award winner, most recently recognized for Ticket to Ride, featured in Happiness is a Warm Gun, crime fiction inspired by the songs of the Beatles. She's also a 2-time Anthony Award finalist and a recipient of the prestigious Raven Award from Mystery Writers of America. From being a fan guest of honor at Malice Domestic, Left Coast Crime, and BoucherCon, to sharing her insights on Dru's book musings, she's made it her mission to connect readers with stories that matter. And when she's not deep in a book, you might just find her quilting, writing poetry, or doing research at her mysterious daytime situation. Today, we have the pleasure of diving into the world of mysteries, books, and beyond with the incomparable Dru Ann Love. Dru Ann, welcome to the conversation.
Thank you. What a wonderful introduction. I'm like, okay, yeah, that does sound like me.
I just tell the truth. Ticket to Ride has been getting a lot of love. What is it like collaborating on creation?
It was very interesting. I always said I have no desire to write, but the opportunity came, and once I had the conversation with Christopher Zagorski, we decided to go forward. Go for it. We did it. I mean, we came up with an outline. We knew what we wanted to write. He would write one part, I would write the other. We would switch back, critique each other, and that whole process worked out so well. And we did have 2 beta readers read it, so they gave us great advice because we knew nothing. It was just amazing to see our effort in a book. I never imagined me being a writer, and I never imagined me having a story in a book. So it was a great collaboration between the both of us. And we have to thank Josh Pector because he's the one that brought us together.
How is writing different than reviewing?
Writing, I think you're more freer to write. There is no one to say you can't do this. There was no one on your shoulder. Let's put it that way. Because I think when you're writing, you're free. You're also able to use your creative ability that you may or may not know that you have. I think it just frees you up, and it lets you explore situations that, again, you didn't know you existed. Whereas reviewing, you have a book in front of you. You have to read the book. You have to be cognizant of what you're reading, and you have to pick out something in the book that you read that resonates with you so that you can write a review. I don't write reviews because reviews, from what I've learned, there are 3 stanzas. There's a beginning, a middle, and end. I can't do that. When I read a review, I actually go to the last paragraph because the last paragraph will tell you exactly what that person thought about the book. So my musing is actually the last paragraph.
What inspired you to start the blog?
Well, I started the blog many years ago. And what you see now is not what I started out. What I started out was with a journal because I realized that I was reading books, the same book multiple times, and I never kept track of it. So I started the blog to keep track of the books I've read and also to make a little 1-sentence note that said I liked it, I didn't like it. I don't like giving ratings because my 5 rating could be your 3. So I more or less stick away from rating anything. So it started out like that, where I would just read a book, write a little sentence. One day, an author came to me and she said, "Oh, I just read your review." And I looked at her, I said, "Well, I didn't write a review." She goes, "No, I read that thing you wrote on the book." I said, "Oh, okay. Yes, thank you." And she goes, would you like to be on my blog, be on our blog? She had a group blog. And I was like, okay. So actually, by being on her blog, I think I did a post a month or something like that. It actually helped me modify my blog So that instead of being a journal, I decided that it should be a little bit better. So I had to think of a feature, and I was actually reading a book, and it was really good. I was getting all into the book. I closed the book, and then my brain goes, so what happens next? And that's when I came up with the feature, A Day in a Life, because it talks about what happens next, or actually what happened before, or what happens during. But it gives the character another outlet that's beyond the book. And so that's when I came up with that particular feature. And then so at the same time, I was also learning blog was still relatively new. And one of the things I've learned also was that to keep people coming to your blog, you always have to have fresh content. So I was like, so I knew that I needed to at least have 5 days of fresh content. And that's when I started like reaching out to various authors and just say, hey, would you like to be on my blog? And this is what it is. And at that time, I think I might have already attended a conference or two. So I've already established a relationship with a few of the authors. And also too, being on that blog, which I believe is the Cozy Chicks, being on that blog, it also helped me in that realm as well. It was a good startup setup to what the blog is today.
Dru Ann Love is our guest. The blog is drewsbookmusing.com. How do you choose what books you want to review?
I read mostly cozies. That's because that is what I like. I do read domestic thrillers, psychological suspense, and whatever. But I prefer cozies. And basically, I scour Amazon and various other lists. And I try to focus on first book in a series because that author is trying to establish her series. So and I also choose books that I also like to read. It amazes me because sometimes I'm like, oh, I would never put this person on my blog, but I read the synopsis and I'm like, you know what? I like it. I'm going to put this person on my blog. So, it's a wait and see game for me. I just look, like I said, I just look at Amazon. I look at whatever other source I'm reading and I just say, I want that person on my blog. Now, chances are one of my pet peeves with authors' website is that sometimes they don't have contact information on their website. Another pet peeve is instead of putting their email on, which is easier for me, they use the form. Now, if you use a form and you don't check your form every other day, there is no point for you having a form. Yeah. So, but that is how I reach out to various authors. And also on social media, I'll if I'm friends with the author and they say, oh, they have a book coming out, I'm like, hey, you want to go, want to visit my blog and do a post, like that.
You've been a fan guest of honor at major mystery convention.
Yes.
What's been the most memorable moment for you in that space?
I think having the attendees, because everybody's a reader, having attendees coming up to me and congratulate. I'm relatively shy. I'm an introvert. So, but having attendees coming up to me and saying, congratulations, we know who you are. We like your blog. That makes me happy because it actually shows that what I am doing as a hobby and a passion that I love to do, help spreading the word, is resonating with other people because they value the information that I am putting forth. So just those congratulations, that really helps it because it makes me feel worthy and it makes me want to continue.
What does purpose mean to you? What's your purpose in life?
My purpose in life is to find joy in whatever it is that you're doing. I can find joy in what other people are doing, but I need to have the joy first.
And you've experienced a lot of joy. Winning the Raven is like the huge honor. What did that recognition mean to you?
That was such a shock because I didn't think I was a candidate for it. I won it in 2017. I think I've already attended 7 years of conferences. So I know that I've been exposed to various people. So it was mind-boggling. It was exhilarating. It was put a great big smile on my face. The first thing I did was call my mom and say, hey, look, this hobby and these traveling to these conferences. Look what I just got. And I'm like, the Raven, that's kind of not like the Oscar, but it's up there. So it was wonderful. It was such an experience to be up there. And I had to write a speech and I had to talk in front of people. Oh my goodness. But I did it. I actually made people cry with my speech. I have a tendency to do that because I did that at Malice Balchicana Left Coast Cry. It was a wonderful experience, and I treasure every accolade that I have received since attending conferences and doing my blog.
Why do you think so many people love you so much?
I give people respect. I hope they give their respect back to me. I treat everybody the same, and I think I'm a very good listener. I listen, and I try to do for people what I would want done for me, and I like to spread the word around. And I think I'm not bashful about that, because I can do that behind the screen. So I guess people just like me because I'm authentic. I'm me. I'm not a phony. What they see is what they get,
We're in conversation with Dru Ann Love. Her blog is drusbookmusing.com. You also write poetry. How does that creative process compare to writing crime fiction?
I've been writing for such a long time. I think when I'm angry, when I'm depressed, and not mentally depressed, but just depressed or unsafe, I tend to write poetry. My favorite poem was My Uncle Died, and he was like a father figure to me. And I remember sitting in the room watching everybody come by, and I took a pad and a pencil and I wrote exactly how I felt. And that made me realize that, life is short, and go out and enjoy what is being offered to you. So that was one of my first poems. And then now I actually wrote a poem about 6 months ago. And actually I wasn't depressed or sad. It was just like, hey, the words are coming. Go ahead and write the poem. So I wrote the poem. I keep them to myself. I did register in Library of Congress. So it's like one of these days I want to go to the Library of Congress and go, can I see the Love collection? I enjoy writing poetry. And and I always say I'm not a writer, but then now I realize that I am because I write poetry. But I'm not a novel writer. So yeah.
Is the process of writing poetry therapeutic?
Yes, I think it is. Yes, I always feel good after I finish it. I write it and I let it sit, and I'll come back to it maybe a couple of days later and read it. And if I still get the same feeling that I got when I wrote it, then that poem is perfect.
When I talked to your friends about this conversation, 2 words kept coming up: authentic curiosity. They use those to describe you. Where did that come from?
Part of my job, I'm a market researcher, and one of the personas that we look at and talk about is the authentic self. And as I've grown up and lived in this universe, I've learned, which is part of the learn to enjoy yourself, is that if I'm authentic with myself, then others will see that authentic with me. And what is basically what you see is what you get. That's what authentic self is. What you see is what you get.
Right?
Exactly.
When you're not reading or writing, you are quilting.
The problem with me for quilting is like I make all these great pieces and they just sit in my house. So I don't have an outlet as to what to do with these quilts. So, but it does, quilting does release the creative juices. So I think that's probably what I miss most, is creating art, because basically that's what quilting is creating art. Whether it's on a blanket, whether it's a cat shawl, whether it's a centerpiece, it's just creating art. And that also helps release a lot of whatever is in your brain that you need releasing.
So in some ways, it's kind of a mindless exercise that frees your subconscious?
Yeah, you think about it. Well, yes, yeah, you're right. It is because because you are also zoned. When I quilt, I'm zoned. I'm just getting my pieces. I get my material. I get my thread. I get the sewing machine, and I'm just doing my pieces. And so I'm so focused on getting this artwork completed that everything else has to go on the wayside of that.
Dru Ann Love is our guest. drusbookmusing.com is her website. On your website, you mention the mysterious daytime situation. What led you to that career?
Well, my major in college was sociology, and I had a minor. It was my minor. So one of my classes, we had a little research project, and I actually enjoyed digging all into that and trying to find solutions to my questions and whatever. And then when I was about to graduate, still didn't know what I wanted to do. I was thinking of going into social work, but then I realized that, social work doesn't pay that much. And, so I had, and I'm out of college, so I need some fun. So actually my first job was working for Girl Scouts, and I was a statistical clerk in the research department. And all my other jobs from that point on have been in the research department. So my daytime situation is I'm a market researcher.
When are you happiest in life?
I'm a homebody, so I'm actually happy when I'm home. Yeah. Get me a book, put my television on. My television acts as the background noise, unless it's a TV show that I want to watch or a movie. Get me a mug of hot chocolate, and I'm a happy camper.
What's one book that everyone should read once?
Well, this is weird because, and I don't know why I always think this, and it's because I read it, War and Peace.
Wow.
Because I read it. It's a fascinating book when you understand what you're reading. And I don't think people have to read the whole book, but I think you should read it. If you can get away with reading the first two chapters, because I do think when I first read it, I did read the first two chapters and I was like, oh, this book is stupid. But I went back to it and I was like, wow. And I remember reading that book for a good week because I was determined to finish this book. And I will tell everybody I read War and Peace because, that book is big.
It's a marathon.
Yes. So I actually think people should read it. I really think people should read it. And like I said, they don't have to read the whole thing, but I think you should read it so that you can see what the author see the message the author was trying to portray.
Writers live in a world of rejection.
Yeah.
And many of us come to the craft
right,
thinking we want to write what we love, and then people tell us it's not what they want.
Right. Correct.
And it is, in a way, kind of a microcosm of the world today where resilience is essential to survival. Where do you find your resilience?
I think once, what? It's weird. It's hard. Everything is weird with me. But when you get the attitude of, I don't care, there's your resilience.
That fascinates me. So does that stop you from engaging?
Sometimes there's so much baggage with what someone wants. And if you say, I don't care, you get rid of the baggage, but you keep what they want. So, so you're not stressing out over the baggage. And if you're in fact dealing with the situation that someone has presented to you, and you and you become much, much stronger because you don't care about the baggage. So now you're building your inner strength to handle everything else because you don't care.
What makes a good story?
A story that grabs your attention from the first page and keeps it to the last page, and then where you want to go and where you want to reach out to the author and say, okay, so when's the next book? It needs to be done in 10 minutes. That's a good story. A one that just takes you in and the outside world does not exist for you. That is how everybody who knows me, they know that I love J.D. Bob. I love her in-depth series. And the minute that book comes out, nothing exists until I finish our book. That is a good book, a good series.
The website is drewsbookmusing.com. It's something you should definitely bookmark. It's a place I go to all the time. I love reading her writing in every way, shape, or form. Ticket to Ride Anthology is a book that you should grab, if for no other reason than to get a taste of Dru Ann Love, the author. Thanks so much for the conversation.
Well, thank you for inviting me. It was fun. I had a good time.
In Conversation with Terry Shepard is a copyrighted presentation. All rights reserved. I'm Lisa Davis. Join Terry Shepard next time in Conversation.